Some of you have hated me. And some of you have judged me very harshly. But some of you have loved me. People ask me all the time, who am I? Where did you come from? Why are you here in the Philippines? This is my story. It's time to tell it. Let's go way back to the very beginning of where it all started. All the way back 54 years ago to August the 6th of 1965 at 12:33 p.m. at 8 pounds and 12 and a quarter ounces and 21 inches long. I come into this world. I was a healthy baby. I didn't have any complications at birth. I was born in Cabarrus Memorial Hospital in Concord, North Carolina. It's Northeast Medical now. Here I am. I'm 1 year old. I have a sailor suit that my grandmother bought me. Here I am, 1 year old and 11 days, August the 17th of 1966. Here I am right after I was born with my mom and my dad. My dad was 21 and my mom was 16 when they got married. Did you know my mother almost bled to death because I was such a big baby and she was such a small woman? But I thank God that she lived through it. This is in my family. Mother Maybelle Falkenberry is sitting there in the middle. I'm up in the right-hand corner with my grandpa. This is my aunts and uncles and nieces and cousins here. Most of them are gone now. I was born an only child. I did not have any brothers or sisters because of the complications my mother went under when she had me. So I grew up by myself. I was not spoiled. This is my mom and dad at Easter time. I have an Easter basket full of eggs. Here I am in the backyard of Kannapolis, North Carolina. I'm playing with little toy trucks and cars and bulldozers and things that I got for my birthday. I had to play games by myself because I didn't have any much friends and I didn't have any brothers or sisters. Here is my mom and dad and me. We took this picture at Olin Mills there in Concord. It's the second family picture we ever took. Here is my picture I took for a class book. I can't think of the year. Here I am in my first grade picture for the class book. I have a tie and everything. Here's my ninth grade picture. I always combed my hair down. I was always different in school and I was always picked on. Here's the first house we lived in when we come from South Carolina. My grandpa's brother owned this house and he moved to Virginia. So my mom and my grandpa and my dad couldn't find no work there, so they come here because my grandma was always by herself. Here's the second picture me and my dad took. I always dressed in a suit. I always took after my grandpa because he was a preacher, and my dad didn't like suits and ties, so he didn't wear them much. I always tried to look my best. Here was the backyard at Kannapolis. I spent a lot of winters there. My dad worked on radios and TVs for 25 years. My grandma and grandpa always lived close to us. They lived in a mobile home. They modernized it a little bit. This is my grandma and grandpa. My grandpa was a retired Baptist preacher. My grandma used to play the piano with him. They went all over North and South Carolina. I lost my grandpa in 96, he was 78, and my grandma was 70 in 91 when I lost her. My grandpa used to be a milkman before a preacher, but he went to seminary with Dr. Billy Graham. This is our genealogy of the Falconberry family. Most of the Falconberries are from Texas. This book dates all the way back to 1712. It has 155 pages in it. And it covers over 200 generations of our family. My Aunt Peggy did this in South Carolina before she passed away. Somehow we're kin to Elvis Presley and Jimmy Carter, but I don't know. Here is the town that I growed up in. It's called Kannapolis, North Carolina. It's like a textile kind of town. I used to go to the gym theater there on Friday and Saturday nights for $1 and watch martial arts pictures. I don't know how much it costs now. I haven't been there in a long time. And the town don't look like this either. This is a Whataburger I used to go to. There used to be 3 of them in our small town. They don't look like this in Texas. I used to get foot-long hot dogs and Whataburgers and cherry lemon sundrops here a lot. This is where I went to elementary school from 1st grade until the 6th grade. Mrs. Field was my teacher. She was like a grandmother to me. Of course, the school didn't look like this when I went. They sort of modernized it over the years. Here is my picture of the 9th grade. I went to school with a lot of people, both black and white. They didn't have segregation in the 70s when I went to school. And school was a lot different than it is today. I met a lot of friends and seen them over the years, but not much. I went to George Washington Junior High School, 7th and 8th grade, in 74 and 75, and this was up around the corner in a black community. I liked going to school. I had a few friends, but I wasn't that popular. I mostly got picked on when I was in school. Here is my high school that I went to. They have a football team called the Wonders, and they had a rival between them and Concord over a bell. But they won the championship before I graduated high school in June of 1983. I was not popular in school and I wanted to play football, but I waited too late to join. But I remember here. And some of those I went to school is on Facebook sometimes. This is my senior high school picture, my graduation picture for the yearbook of June of 1983. Yeah, I got a high school diploma. My dad gave me $200 and my uncle gave me a 1963 Impala 4-door, red. And this is the first place I ever worked in the town. It's called Cannon Mills. They manufacture towels and sheets. I worked in the distribution center for second shift from 3 in the afternoon to 11 at night. Yeah, I load trucks and everything. But this place closed down in 2003 because of bankruptcy, because they wanted a union, but it didn't go. So they bulldozed it down. A lot of people lost their jobs, and the town was never the same. I was so depressed and worn out from working that job. I worked 7 days a week, 8 hours a day. I never had no time to myself. I wanted an outside job. I'm mostly an outdoor person. So I finally found this job at this 76 truck stop. It's a Love's truck stop now. This is located in Salisbury, North Carolina, off of Interstate 85. Yeah, off of Jake Alexander Boulevard. I was a fuel attendant. I fueled the trucks while the drivers went inside, and I filled out the tickets and brought it to the fuel counter so they could pay for the fuel. One day this truck here came through the fuel island and I talked to the driver, and he said you could go to truck driving school and learn how to drive for $235 for the North Carolina residents, and it was $1,500 for non-residents, because a lot of the truck driving schools around were high. So I thought this was a deal for a 6 to 8 weeks course. So I signed up and I went. This is the first company I drove for, Transport America. I was gone from August to December of '93. I was gone all up north, but I didn't drive a truck like this. I drove the Peterbilt Cabover, the Barks ones, and then they later changed to these trucks later on. Then I got tired of Transport America and I went to work with Warner, and I lived in a truck just like this for a solid year. I got a 100,000 mile safety award with this company. Back in 2005, I think it is. I didn't get no tickets and no accidents for that many miles. I was a safe driver. And then I used to go to Nashville on the weekends while I drove over the road, so I found out a local job for Warner, so that's what I did. I drove from Nashville to Indianapolis, Indiana every night, and I was off on the weekends. And then I'd go to the Jamboree and meet the country stars, you know. I tried to buy a house there, but, you know, the job got scarce and they cut back on it, so I couldn't make the payments on the house, because every time I did, it'd go up every month, so I just let it go. In March of 2012, I lost my dad. I never got to say goodbye to him. I was on the road at Fort Worth, Texas, and it took 6 days for me to get home for the funeral. Everybody told me he was looking for me to come through the door, but I never did. And I miss him. And I lost a lot of my relatives over time that I never got to see before they died. I was so sad and so depressed, and I was not happy. And I told my mother about it, and I needed a vacation. I haven't been nowhere in 49 years outside the United States except running from coast to coast in a truck, which I didn't have time much to see much of nothing. So I wanted to go somewhere, but I didn't know where, and she knew that I did. And about this time I had my singing videos on YouTube, but I had to take them down because of copyright violations. And in the process, while I was on YouTube, I did some research and I seen some guys talking about the Philippines. And I thought that'd be a wonderful place to go to because my mom's dad was in World War II and he went to Philippines. So I thought I would go and check it out. So I went to the United States Post Office to apply for the passport, and the woman told me that I'd have to wait 4 to 6 months. I didn't want to wait that long, so she told me I could go to Lexington, North Carolina to the courthouse and I would have it in 2 weeks. So that's what I did, and I got it in 2 weeks. Then after I got my passport, I had to find a place to live in the Philippines, and I didn't know who to ask because nobody wouldn't help me much. So I found a guy that was in Manila, and he had this apartment, and he wanted $100 a week or $400 a month. So that's what I did, and I had a nice queen size bed and all kinds of stuff. It had an aircon and color TV. And I told him I wanted this from May the 7th of 2015 to June the 7th of 2015. I only wanted to go for 30 days to check it out and see if I liked it. If it didn't, then I would, go somewhere else. Here's a nice table and chair inside the room. It was a very nice place. As you can see, it had a refrigerator and dishes and utensils and a rice cooker and everything. And they got you a 5-gallon jug of water if you wanted it. All you have to do is let them know. And it had a hot shower and everything. The only sink that they had was in the bathroom. So that's where you had to wash your dishes. If you eat inside the room, which they didn't mind, but it was always walking distance to restaurants there. It wasn't that far from places. Here you can see outside, I stayed on the 3rd floor. They had a sorry store there up under the canopy. And these Jeepies to the right-hand side, this guy owned 7 of them. And he worked on them to keep up the maintenance, so it was kind of noisy sometimes, not too bad. And here his Tony's sister and niece and her husband and kids lived there in that house where the plants are. So if you needed to find out where a place was or anything, they would help you out. All you had to do was ask. They was very nice and hospitable. As you can see in this map, I was in the little yellow box there. That's where the apartment was. And it's close to Roxy Boulevard and Metro Point and Chowking and everything there. I rode this train one time in Manila and I had a bad experience, but I enjoyed the ride on the train. It's the first time I ever been on a train like that, and I enjoyed it. I just had one bad experience on it. I was standing up just like these people are in this picture, and a guy behind me picked up my phone out of my pocket. I had one expensive phone and one cheap phone, and the cheap phone I just put a SIM card in it and I haven't used it yet, but he stole the cheap phone, so you know. Anyway, here come the day, June the 7th of 2015. I had to leave, and I had two guys and a stewardess on the plane, and I cried, but I didn't want to see them see me cry. But I asked God through my tears to make a way for me to come back to the Philippines. So I went back, and I got this job driving a truck, which I didn't want to do anymore. I talked to a black guy, he's an owner-operator, and I told him what I wanted to do, and he said he understood because he got a daughter, just went to Japan for a honeymoon. So he gave me a run so I could get home on the weekends. I run from Charlotte, North Carolina, all the way to Jacksonville, Florida, back and forth, hauling Coca-Cola bottles. You know, I started getting depressed again, and I was unhappy and everything, and I wanted to go back to the Philippines because I missed it so much. And I was looking for a reason to go back, and I wanted to, but I didn't want to go back alone like I did before, so. And then I was online one day, and I seen this beautiful woman, and she talked to me, and I come alive, and I started smiling. I was so happy because I've seen her. God answered my prayer more ways than one. Velma was in the Providence of Bel Air, and sometimes she would lose internet signal, and I would cry because I missed her so much, because she made me so happy. Anybody that's in an LDR relationship can relate to this, because you want to be with a certain person so bad. They make you so happy and so alive. Velma never lied to me. Everything she's ever told me has been the truth, and I found that out when I got here. Oh, she is so good. Then come the day, November of 2017. God answered my prayer, and I was on my way back to the Philippines. Only this time I brought my mother, the first time she had ever been outside the United States in her life, and I was happy. And we was on our way to the Philippines. We landed in Nicoy International Airport, and Velma was there, and her mom, and her sister, and cousins, and everybody was there. And I was so happy that I was there, and I seen her in person, and I didn't have to talk to her on the phone, and I was so happy. So I went back to the same apartment because I didn't know where else to go. So we went back to the same apartment where I stayed in Pasay City, and we stayed there until February 2018. That's when we moved from there and come to Quezon City. That's where we're at now. You know, I used to load a video there. It used to take 8 hours. That was a long time. The internet was worse then than it was when I was there in 2015. But it was better than nothing, you know. And you know, I started talking to those people that I used to talk to in 2012. I don't know what happened to them. They changed for some apparent reason. I don't know why. I honored them in our first video on this channel. I mentioned every one of them by name and thanked them for their information and everything. And I called them and honored them. But I don't know. they seem to change, you know, and I was finding out about YouTube. We started our channel, Life in the Philippines as I See It, and you know, people started criticizing us for shaky videos and all kinds of things they could think of. I went into live streams with these people and I never said nothing bad about their families or kids or wives or nothing. But they always tried to nitpick me so they could use information later on to use it against me for some kind of reason. I don't know why. You know, it really hurt, you know, when they mentioned their top channels and everything, but they never mentioned us. The only time they ever said anything about us was when they ridiculed us or condemned us. And I didn't understand why, and Velma didn't either. You know, they struck a low blow with me when they condemned my mother and they talked about her in a live stream like she was a dog. And then I retaliated with a video, which I didn't feel good about. And then the video started getting notoriety and, you know, notice, and then they put threats all over our Facebook page and tell us to take it down. And they thought it was funny. I didn't think it was funny. They brought my mother to tears and they hurt her. You know, we met this one guy. He said he cared and he wanted to help us, but you know what he did? He went right back to the very people that cut us and cut our mother in a live stream. Sometimes you don't know who you can trust anymore. So you know, me and Velma, we got together and we started our Philippine World. We try to put a video out every week and try to do live stream, you know, if the internet signal would let us. You know, we come to the Philippines because we loved it, and we never forgot about it in 2015 when we come. So we come back and we honor and cherish the Philippines. This is our home. Sure, we're from America, but we love the Philippines with all our heart. This is our home. We sold everything we had to come here. This is our home. We will live and die in the Philippines. And we will honor the people as long as we're here. We're on your side. We love the Philippines with all our heart. And we grow up with respect for everybody. We're not here for wars. So God bless you, and peace to everyone is our prayer.